Hey, thanks for joining me on the Secrets of Success podcast with Dr. Shay Needham. That's me, where our theme is never be outworked. And certainly talking to you and getting to know you over the last couple of years and just talking to you recently, you certainly have that mindset of the never be outworked mindset. So thanks again for joining us. A little bit of introductions here. You can see me and follow me on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. You can also see my YouTube channel. You can see my Spotify, SoundCloud, and iTunes, where all of our previous podcasts are online there now and live. This is episode number 26, and we are a voice to all those of never be outworked. And certainly we have a great guest in Riley today to show his story of conquering eating disorders. We'll talk a little bit about that. And we'll also talk about how that never be outworked mindset has benefited him. But we talk about science, we talk about nutrition, we talk about powerlifting, we talk about bodybuilding, we talk about all different things, coaching, everything that we can think of where a never be outworked mindset is necessary. So thanks again for joining me, Riley. And I'm just super excited to have you here. And I feel honored to have you as a guest. And so this is continuing our series of eating disorders. And a lot of people don't know that men suffer just as nearly as much as women with eating disorders, and we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about Riley's journey too, and how he overcame that as well. And so, Riley, why don't you introduce yourself, talk to yourself, and go back as far as you want, right into the present, and we want to hear your story.
Hi, I'm Riley Sanders. It all started in middle school. I guess I just enjoyed food a little too much, and I guess I was never too athletic in my early years. Always kind of a couch potato in a ways, and that turned into my weight gain. I did some sports like swimming, and that would slim me down for a little bit. But after I quit the swim team, my weight just went up substantially to about 260 pounds at my senior year.
Wow.
Completely.
Do you think it was mostly activity, or do you also think it was attributed to what you were eating?
Definitely what I was eating, for sure.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Very, very interesting. And so I'm going to try to pull up a picture here. You keep talking, tell your story. One thing that Riley told me, and I'm going to show some pictures, and he can talk about these pictures, but he actually gets up every morning at 3:55 to go work out for a couple of hours before he starts his work day. And then he told me all about what he eats. He knows how many grams of protein he eats a day, how many grams of carbohydrates, how many grams of fat. He knows his calories. It is a challenge, but not unsurmountable, to conquer any eating disorder. And so we're going to be talking about that. So talk a little bit about, so in middle school, you tell me about your lifestyle, and then when did it finally get to a point where you're like, okay, I think I have an issue? Talk about that. And I'm going to find this picture as well.
I would say really it's just all about the lifestyle I was in my middle school years. Really, it was just all about, it's sad to say, but couch potatoing and playing video games and not really getting out there as much as I should have. And that really just kept snowballing down, and eventually I hit rock bottom. And yeah, I guess
And
just
so at what point did you feel that you had hit rock bottom?
uh, I'd say my last bit of junior year and senior year, I really noticed that I guess I really struggled to say I was obese.
Interesting. Yeah, that's hard to understand. I was going to talk about that. Is that kind of when you realize it's like, I'm obese? Was that hard to say and hard to actually define?
Yeah, it was actually when I was getting my checkup in with my doctor, and he told me that I was obese, and I just kind of sat there and
Wow.
I didn't accept it, I guess. I just said,
That's
"There's no way."
interesting.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm actually surprised. I think that's a good doctor. Actually, most doctors don't want to say that. They want to put you on some medication. Maybe they did want to do that too, but I think it's actually very important that a doctor was able to say, "Hey, you have an issue." And
yeah.
so then what happened?
From there, I just didn't believe it, and I kind of just kept going the
Yeah.
same route I was going. I would do some activities, but I mean, I guess my calorie surplus definitely was higher than what I was putting out energy wise. So I just kept growing and growing. And
Interesting.
then,
I'm going to share a picture with you here. Okay, so this is, why don't you describe each one of these pictures actually? Go ahead and just describe them.
that top picture where I was probably my chubbiest would be my junior year, my junior summer, I'd say. Uh, yeah, I wouldn't say I didn't have any muscle. You could kind of tell I had somewhat muscle, and that's what I just kept telling myself. Uh, but I definitely had a problem, and yeah, I was
Interesting.
definitely, yeah.
Interesting. And so that was the point where you're like, I have to make a change.
Yep. And then
So what did you do?
my senior year, right before I went to college, I broke up with my girlfriend, and I told myself that I needed to change because I moved to Phoenix, and I told myself that was when I was going to change, and I started hiking more, and then I kind of got into weightlifting, you would say, and I completely dropped in calories. And I started watching YouTubers and all the fitness channels, but that's also when I'd say I was unhealthy, probably the most unhealthy, because my calorie deficit was
Yeah.
way too low for just a male my size.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so let's talk a little bit about that. If we look at these pictures, so we look at you and you're weighing 260 in the upper left-hand corner. And then these other pictures, obviously you look stellar. And I remember meeting you in the gym, I don't know, a couple of years ago and in Moscow. And I don't know how we got connected. Somehow we got connected and somehow you knew I did bodybuilding or something. And so we started talking and right when you started talking and you were saying you wanted to gain muscle but I could tell you were fearful of eating, and I just knew that you had probably been previously, maybe a little bit chubby, and I was in the same boat. I was in the, I was like you. I was I guess stocky build, and I didn't eat right when I was younger, and like you, I found nutrition and I found lifestyle changes that were necessary. But I just knew, and that's very common where somebody who struggled with maybe obesity, then they struggle with the other side of the coin about under eating and sometimes being anorexic and even bulimic and so on and so forth. And those are some other struggles that men and women can struggle with. And so how did you what happened when you finally said, "Hey, I can eat more and not have to worry about it"? And talk about your numbers now. It sounds like you've done DEXA scan or body fat numbers, but talk about the calories you eat now and your training now and your macros. Talk about all that.
Yeah, well, when I first started counting calories and getting into macronutrients, like I said, I was under eating, and I was eating about 1,200 calories a day, and I would, yeah. So that's when I dropped from 260 to 170, the
Wow.
lowest I ever weighed.
Yeah.
And then it was just all about cardio and all that. And then about a year later, I met you in the gym when I started working at Nyack, and I saw how big you were, and I realized that all that weight I dropped of how much muscle I lost, and I knew I needed to get stronger somehow, but I knew I wasn't going to get stronger the way I was eating. And then you came into my life and you told me not to be afraid of eating, and we had a couple training days and we just talked on the treadmill and such. And then you showed me some macronutrients and told me how to eat, and I started following that and saw the results. And that's when I wasn't quite as scared to eat. And I'm not going to say till this day I still fear of eating too much sometimes.
You know what? I understand that, and I actually think that that's probably a good thing. I
Yeah.
I I think to me, you look very, very healthy, and I think people have to know what unhealthy and healthy is. And I think you've kind of found that balance. And it sounds like you feel great. I mean, how do you feel? That's the number one thing. How do you feel?
Oh, I feel fantastic. I
That's
finally
awesome.
hit a weight and a mass size and or I don't see myself as that old fatty.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I
That
finally conquered the dream of having abs, and now I know how to eat and train to properly keep them while still gaining mass without getting too fat. And yeah, I understand what I can and can't eat, and I understand how much work I have to put in to get the what I want out of it. So yeah, I'm very happy where I'm at.
that's
And
awesome. And so as far as your eating struggles, do you crave things now, or I mean, you probably eat really healthy. You don't eat a lot of processed foods. Describe what you're eating now.
I'd say my staple mark for breakfast is always protein oatmeal. I always start off my day with a protein shake and about a cup of oats, dry oats, and then protein powder, almond milk, and tablespoon of almond butter, and that's what I have for breakfast every day. And depending on if I'm trying to shred weight or gain weight, but right now since I'm trying to gain weight, I'm just eating rice, chicken, sweet potatoes, like we were talking,
Yeah.
uh, whole wheat tortillas, and all that. Just good natural food, but enough to make me gain weight. And yeah,
That's
that's
awesome.
about it.
And you described that you said you figured out the work that you need to put in. I think describe that. It is work. You have to make intentional choices. Would you just think that that's true? You have to make intentional choices every day about
Mhm.
how you're going to have a lifestyle. Would you think that's correct?
I completely do.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I want to go back to your relationships. And it sounds like you have great relationships now. One thing you mentioned um, is that you broke up with your girlfriend. Why was that important? Is it important? Why'd you mention that?
I'd say it was important. I think that's honestly kind of what put me out there to change. And when I was with that certain person at the time, that's when I was eating my probably at the worst. And
Interesting.
you know,
Interesting.
they like all girlfriends say, you're beautiful, you're good looking, or you look good where you're at. And I definitely wasn't in a healthy relationship with food by then, but I believed her. And then as soon as things broke off, I knew that I wasn't healthy. And like I said, the obese word came in, and things
Interesting.
needed to change.
And so do you a lot of research goes into describing why people have any brokenness. And obesity or any eating disorder is a brokenness. And a really good friend of mine describes it, counselor and pastor describes it as all brokenness comes from loneliness. Do you feel that you were lonely from something and that's why you overate? Like there was some abandonment or rejection issue, maybe with your primary relationship at the time, or um, maybe was it just growing up in a home that you didn't know better on how to eat, or describe that.
I definitely say it was probably the people I hung out, probably the people I surrounded myself with,
Yeah.
was where all the bad food started coming from.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did they have a poor lifestyle and poor eating choices and unhealthy and so on and so
Yes.
forth?
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. So I assume you don't surround yourselves with those types of people anymore.
No.
That's huge. And usually it's just bottom line when you see obese children, you see obese parents. And when you see obese friends, all their friends are obese. I mean, just that's just how it is. And those are just absolutely facts. And so how courageous of you to make that change. That's really, really awesome. Do you think you have a support group now?
Sadly enough, I don't think I really do. It's just always kind
Interesting.
of been me. I
That's
mean,
interesting.
when I was at Nyack, when I was working at the gym, I had you who was training me, and I was surrounded by all those gym people that, have the same idea of fitness with me. And so that kind of encouraged me to keep lifting. But right now, it's honestly just been myself.
That's interesting. Well, that's a really, really good mindset. That's amazing that you can do that. A lot of people can't do that. So, how have your parents been in this journey? Have they seen the changes? What have they said from, high school years to now? What are they seeing?
Yeah, they definitely enjoyed the lifestyle I've chosen of eating healthy. They've always been healthy too. They don't know where my unhealthiness came from, like, per se.
That's
You know,
very
my sisters are all very athletic and beautiful, and I was always kind of the odd one of the group. Uh, but
very
yeah,
interesting. Huh. So what is your biggest fear now? What's your biggest fear when you think about body image issues?
I'd say not being, I don't know if the word not being good enough
Yeah.
would be something to say, but it's just being in from all the places I've been. I see myself as someone who pushes himself and, outworks everybody. And then it's all, yeah, body image is pretty huge
Well, you
when
know what?
you,
I'm glad you brought it up, and it's hard to put your finger on it. And you've talked about it already that you wanted to gain muscle, but you still wanted to see your abs. And so obviously for a man, the general struggle is is you want to be bigger and leaner.
Mhm.
And that's bodybuilding in general. That's like the male thing to do. And that's kind of what society expects of us. And so, whereas on the female end, usually it's you want to be petite and small and skinny or whatever it is. And so it's just what society has put those constraints on us. And so for a man, it's actually called bigorexia. There's actually a disorder called bigorexia that you're never going to be big enough. You're never going to be lean enough. And Riley, I struggle with the exact same thing, and I talk to bodybuilding friends who are on the national level, who are ranked nationally, or some of you even won nationals, and they struggle with the same thing. They're not big enough. They're not lean enough. And these guys, you would look at them, it's like, oh my word, right? So it's a very common disorder to think that we're not good enough. And so where does that come from? Do you know where it comes from for you? Maybe.
yeah, I definitely say that disorder, bigorexia, definitely is 100% true for me.
Yeah.
Uh, Gaining size while staying slim is definitely a challenge. Uh,
It is, and that's where you need a good support group and a
yeah,
good coach, especially if you're going to step on stage. And this is being very transparent and very vulnerable right now. Typically, when I'm in my growth phase off season, it is hard for me to even look in the mirror.
exactly.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
I tell very few people that. Now I just told a whole thousands of people in the audience, but it's very difficult for me. And because I want to see myself as that 2.5% body fat person who stepped on stage, and I want to always see myself as that. And that's how a lot of bodybuilders actually are. And so it's definitely a struggle for me. Whereas, you know, people who may not be as healthy as us and may not lift and train and eat like us, they're like, are you kidding me? You look awesome. But it's like it's a never good enough thing. And so I don't know where that comes from for you. Do you know where it comes from as far as um, growing up on maybe not feeling accepted or maybe not feeling you were good enough? Where do you think that comes from?
that's a good question because I still struggle with that today of
Interesting.
trying to fit in the way that I've always struggled with fitting in,
Yeah.
being obese, just never having, being obese, people just don't see you the same as, like a normal person. And I've
Right.
always struggled with, and till this day, I still struggle with trying to fit in, trying to find that select group of people that have the same interests as I do. And, talking about bodybuilding and all that to like even the guys I work with today, it's like a, it's like a foreign language. And so just trying to
Yeah.
fit in with people that enjoy the same hobbies as you do, such as bodybuilding, which is such a small percentage of people.
It is a small percentage of people. And here's, and I get it, trying to fit in. And you know, it's interesting. You know, it's like I'm looking at my, um, myself 25 years ago, because, and I still feel this way, Riley, by the way, is that, I don't fit in. I, you know, I'm a scientist, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a bodybuilder, I'm a power lifter, I'm a father, I'm a podcaster. So my scientist friends have no, they have no realm in why I eat like I eat. When I go to
Mhm.
conferences and stuff, they're like, wow, that's just crazy. And then my bodybuilding friends are like, wow, you're a scientist? That's weird. So I don't fit in anywhere, it feels like. And so you have to have your own mindset to be yourself. And it sounds like you've certainly done that, but you surround yourself with all those different groups, and try to have the mindset of, you know, this group can provide this for me. This group can provide this for me. Having said that, the most important relationship you're going to have is your primary relationship, right? And if that person's not supportive, you know, your girlfriend, your wife, or whatever, that's a really hard one. It sounds like you had to make some tough choices there, and it sounds like you did. So, man, if I had to give my advice to you, not that I'm, you know, worth anything, but you might not ever fit in, and that's
Yeah.
okay. Be unique, but keep living the lifestyle you're doing, because you inspire people. So
Yeah.
tell me about, we talked a little bit about it. So we're going to get to never be outworked. Tell me about your typical day. So here's what we hear a lot, is we hear that, oh, I can't lose weight. It's in my genes. And I'm not being unempathetic here. I empathize with anybody who struggles with obesity or any eating disorder. It is not easy. And the way they have designed food nowadays is super hyper palatable. It tastes good. You know, packaged foods taste good, chips taste good, sweets taste good, candy tastes good, all that. It's super hyper palatable. And they create it that way. So we eat lots of it, and it provides zero nutrient density for us. But, you know, describe your day. So you wake up 3:55 a.m. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah. My first alarm goes off at 3:55,
Wow.
and lay in bed and I ponder life for a second, and then I
Good.
and then I
That's
hop
really
out,
good, actually. Yeah. Yeah.
and then I'm out, getting my gym clothes on by 4 a.m. Get to the gym by 4:10, 4:05. Cardio for a half hour. I'm trying to down that though because I'm gaining, so I was dropping down about 20 minutes cardio, straight into weights, and then as soon as I'm home, protein shake, protein oatmeal, and then I pack all my food for work, and I get called crazy for all the food I bring to work.
Remember
Everyone's
what some people call obsessive and crazy, I call dedicated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because everybody at work, they won't bring food. They just wait till lunchtime and they'll go to McDonald's and buy a bunch of food and then come back, and I've got about 4 meals ready for the day.
Right, exactly. It's very intentional, and it does require work, but it's very, very intentional to
Mhm.
lead a healthy lifestyle. And so you've got your 4 meals planned at work, because you probably eat several meals a day, smaller ones, right?
Yep.
So every couple of hours or something like that, right? And so describe what those are.
Uh, from the protein oatmeal, it goes depends on what I got, but generally it's steak and rice or chicken and rice. And then I will have one. So usually two of those are rice and some sort of protein, and then the other two are sweet potatoes and some sort of protein. And then yeah, that's it really.
Yeah.
Pretty simple.
It's always simple. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then you get home, and what do you cook?
Uh Generally I'll just have rice.
Yeah.
Right, I'll have rice, and generally I'll put maybe some eggs on it and chicken, and I call it that my last meal of the day. Have an avocado for fat, and yeah,
So do you usually so your last meal of the day, what time is that usually?
I'd say I get off at 6, it's generally about 7 o'clock.
Do you use any intermittent fasting? Do you like to not eat late at night?
Yeah, I used to be really big in intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
That was through college. That's all I did.
Yeah.
Uh, but no, not really anymore.
Yeah.
Generally, I'll eat at 6 in the morning, and then have my last meal about 7, and then fast until my next meal in the morning.
Yeah. So very intentional. So you know exactly what you're going to eat pretty much
Hmm.
every single day. It sounds familiar, Riley.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really, you have to make a plan. You have to have a plan in that way. And so that's really, really cool. And so you're also going to school online. Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. So for people that say it can't be done, this is a guy right here who is not only healthy, but working 60 hours a week. He's also training and he's also going to school online. It can be done. This is obviously he's a no excuses type of guy. And that's really inspiring, Riley, for somebody your age, especially that you can inspire a whole generation. There's just not a lot of people like you. So really, really good job. I'm super, super proud of that. Really good job. So how would you describe it sounds like you have it. How would you describe your never be outworked mindset in your success in this journey?
I'd say I use it every day. I think being called crazy every day for waking up at 3:55 a.m. just go to the gym. You got to make every hour of the day count. Uh, you got to make the money, but you also got to you got to lift and eat properly. And there's no excuse to wake up late. I
Yeah.
wake up 3:55 every day of the week,
Wow.
even on my days off. And yeah,
And what's your training schedule look like? Do you train 4 days a week, 5 days a week?
uh, when we used to train, I was doing 6 days a week, and then you told me that I shouldn't be training 6 days a week. You got to let your body rest, and so I started implementing 5 days a week, which is a struggle sometimes, but I forced myself to now.
That's good because forcing yourself to rest is part of the intentional never be outworked mindset. It
Mhm.
is actually really, really hard to do, but it's definitely necessary. And so as we kind of wind some of this up, so describe a potential failure in your life that maybe somebody on the outside looking in or somebody even yourself might have thought was a failure, but it ended up being more successful in the end for you. Do you have a particular or several instances?
I honestly think my main one would be, as much as I look back at it, being obese.
Yeah,
Honestly, I see as a failure, but has led to everything I am today.
that's awesome. That,
Because
yeah, go on. Why do you think that created a mindset for you? What did it create for you that you feel has made you what you are today?
I just say you see all the people you used to grow up in high school with, their average weight, average height. They do some sports every once in a while, but they look great, and they have the metabolism to eat whatever they want. And then, those are the type of people that don't really ever push themselves outside of the limits because they already look good. But,
Right.
and then from going to obese to losing all that weight, I think it's put me in a mindset that, you have to appreciate what you do for your body, appreciate what you put in, and appreciate what you have had, and now appreciate what you have.
That's awesome. That's a great mindset, a very grateful mindset. And so, what's interesting is I think about you talked about them of people who have natural abilities and maybe naturally athletic or naturally gifted in whatever way it is. And there's lots of research on this now. They are not the ones that succeed in the end. They're not because they didn't have to go through the struggles like you. You realize that it's going to take something different. And so when something gets hard for you, you just work harder. And that's a great mindset to have. That's the never be outworked mindset. And whereas people who are naturally gifted, whether it be intellect or athletically or body issues, whatever it is, they don't know. We all went to high school with people who looked very good as boys and girls, and they never had to work for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see them at the 20-year reunions, it usually doesn't look the same. So keep it up, Riley. This has really been awesome. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming on and talking about your struggles, and not only your struggles, but you overcoming them. And you have conquered this. It's going to be a constant struggle. It's no different than an alcoholic. And I still struggle with it. It's going to be something that you struggle with your whole life. It seems like you now understand it and you understand what a healthy lifestyle is. So I'm super proud of you. I really appreciate your time on my show today. And you can see us. You can see all of our on YouTube, on SoundCloud, on Spotify, on iTunes. You can see previous episodes. Go to my website. The streaming banner is there at drsneedham.com. You can get more information about me and the podcast and other things there. And so, Riley, thank you very much for joining us. I know you rushed from work to join me, and I just really appreciate your time today. Get back at it. I'm not going to tell you to go work hard. I'm going to go tell you to go rest, because that's the kind of advice that you need.
Yeah.
Make sure you celebrate those small victories, whatever they are. Celebrate them. Don't necessarily celebrate them with food, but celebrate them in a healthy way, in whatever you think that is. Celebrate those small wins, because you have earned it, my friend. I'm really proud of you. Thanks again, Riley. And let's keep in touch, and we will see you all soon. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for so many engagements, and over 100,000 engagements over the last month and a half. Really appreciate it. Subscribe to my YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, and just keep those numbers coming. Thank you very much. And Riley, let's be in touch, and we hope to see you soon.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Hey, take care. Thanks for joining us.